The new internet. It's not for you. Thought you were safe using Rumble, BitChute, etc. They can't censor me there. Well, think again. The evil boobs have come up with a way to get round that. We're not just going to censor our bought and paid for platforms. We're going to censor the whole internet. Well, I don't care. I've got my own website. Tough luck, Susan. We're going to control the ISPs. The what? The internet service providers. You know, your BT broadband, your TalkTalk. If we get our way, we're going to dictate their terms and conditions. And if you don't comply with them, no internet for you, Susan. The UN is probably going to steal the internet. Disclaimer. I will be doing something on the UK after this. We're even closer to the planned technocracy than the US, apparently. Don't even get me started on the UN. Actually, I already started. Go and look at my video called EU ID CBDC. A question mark. Joe Biden is probably going to give the internet to the UN. Are Genocide Joe's Internet for All plans just shiny Poundland packaging for yet another commie-inspired agenda for control? Let's start by looking at Unesco. I've heard of it, Liz, but what does it mean? So to start, let's talk Huxley. Julian Huxley, Aldous' brother, was the first director of Unesco. Julian, a member of Britain's first think tank, the Fabian Society, a behind-the-scenes bunch of angry muppets that has been quietly influencing and manipulating society since its inception in 1884. What does that remind you of? With the completely innocent logo, completely innocent, you can there's this, of a wolf in sheep's clothing. Conspiracy. Julian Huxley, who first coined the term transhumanism, is quoted as saying, "I believe in transhumanism. Once there are enough people who can truly say that, the human species will be on the threshold of a new kind of existence, as different from ours as ours is from that of a Peking man. It will at last be consciously fulfilling its real destiny." He also said, "Eugenics is destined to become part of the religion of the future, or of whatever complex of sentiments which may then take the place of organised religion." He was a nutter, mate. Have you noticed I'm trying not to swear? For the sensitive souls among you who have already unsubscribed. UNESCO stands for United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organisation. It is a specialised agency of the United Nations. That's nice. It is aimed at promoting world peace. Doing a great job there. And security through international cooperation in education, arts, sciences and culture. Its headquarters are in Paris. Paris, very dodgy. Very dodgy over there. This is currently on the front page of UNESCO's website. So this is unesco.org and front page, how to combat misinformation. Misinformation and hate speech are proliferating rapidly due to digital tools. UNESCO has developed guidance to fight this problem while safeguarding freedom of expression. Action plan to regulate social media. UNESCO unveils action plan to regulate social media platforms. Audrey Azoulay, Director of General UNESCO, sounded the alarm on Monday about the intensification of disinformation and hate speech online, which constitutes a major threat to stability and social cohesion. To put an end to this scourge, she unveiled UNESCO's action plan, the result of extensive worldwide consultations, and is backed by a global opinion survey underlying the urgent need for action. So let's have a look at their action plan. I'm just going to skim through it, obviously. Short summary. Safeguarding freedom of expression and the right to information while dealing with dis- and misinformation, hate speech and conspiracy theories requires a multi-stakeholder approach. This is the reason why UNESCO, the leading UN agency for the promotion and protection of freedom of expression and to information, is launching guidelines for the governance of digital platforms. The guidelines outline a set of duties, responsibilities and roles for states, digital platforms, intergovernmental organisations, civil society, media, academia, the technical community and other stakeholders to enable the environment where freedom of expression and information are in the core digital platforms governance processes. The guidelines were produced through a multi-stakeholder consultation that gathered more than 10,000 comments from 134 countries. The global-scale consultations fostered inclusive participation, ensuring a diversity of voices to be heard, including those from groups in situation of marginalisation and vulnerability. Cultivating an internet of trust is a shared responsibility among all stakeholders. It calls upon us all to sustain an enabling environment for freedom of expression and the right to information. So on the back of this, we have the headline: Online Disinformation. UNESCO reveals action plan to regulate social media platforms. Africa, it doesn't say whereabouts, and Latin America have already indicated they're ready to begin implementing UNESCO's ideas. I don't expect they got any little presents for doing that, did they? You know, those really rich countries, you know, Latin America and Africa, really rich, probably didn't get any little backhanders from UNESCO, did they? I wouldn't have thought. Beerist. The first World Conference of Regulators will take place in mid-2024. Europe has already pledged €1 million to the cause. Okay, so UNESCO's Director General Audrey Azoulay, Socialist Party member, says their survey suggests the need for urgent action by governments to hurry up and regulate social media. Quote, regulators and platforms should take stronger measures during particularly sensitive moments like elections and crisis. Well, it's a good job there's none of that going on at the moment, isn't there? So in a nutshell, the United Nations want to control the internet. Now, what on earth is digital equity? Let's ask the Internet Society Foundation, who have uploaded a little bit of info for us in June this year. It must be a really new concept, or at least the ramping up of the propaganda about it's very recent. Digital equity refers to the state where every person and community has the necessary information technology resources to participate in society, democracy and the economy fully. I'm sorry, but who would be against that? Well, nobody, except people like me who never used to need dangerous 5G emitting frequencies to participate in society. But that's another story for another day. Back to La La Land, where we unfortunately live. Who would be against that? Giving everybody 5G? Who's against that? Luddites? Beerists? Insert some extremely patronising images of people in so-called developing countries, super excited about technology. Doesn't it warm the deepest recesses of your soul? You know, that part where your inner first world patronising demon lives. And I don't know about you, but some of us literally have dreams about living in the Shire or St Mary Mead. That's where Miss Marple used to live. Yeah, there were murders every single day in Sauron. The murders were mainly in the vicarages, so there was always a nice little tea shop. The waitress always had a nice little starch uniform. You always got a cup of tea in a china teacup. And they said things like, I dare say. I mean, who don't want to... I'd rather go back to that time, to be honest. I don't know what he just bloody Googled, but she's not happy about it. Don't worry, love. You'll soon have Facebook. It was Friends, what was it called? Friends Reunited back in my day. She'll soon be able to run off with her ex. The one that she still has little dreams about. Until she realises why he's the ex. And then she goes running back to her family. If they have her back. If they don't, she can go on OnlyFans. Make a bit of money. If that doesn't work and her mental health declines, it's absolutely fine, because I don't know about you, but I'm getting pop-ups and emails suggesting that I can go somewhere rather fancy and die with dignity. So if it gets that bad, just fucking top yourself, love. Before you go, don't forget to teach your daughters how to twerk on the internet for dirty old creepers. That's what they like to do these days. Because they're going to need to make some money for themselves, because you've gone and your dad's no use. He's sat in the corner. He's got a glazed look on his face. He's found TikTok. He now realises that he's always been an oppressed woman in his 20s. Or a toaster. So, they're going to need some skills to make some money. We are the world. We are the people. We are the worst, make better days to bless that girl. I feel all warm inside that we're going to give that to the developing countries so they can develop like we do. So they can have bits chopped off and bits glued on, and I just feel warm that I'm part of giving that to the world. Talking about dirty old creepers. This picture always makes me chuckle. You see like Biden's being all creepy on her. She's got a wedding ring on, so it's obviously his wife. And his little mate over in the corner, it looks like he's trying to say with his eyes, John, don't kill the president, John. That's what I get from this picture. John, it might be his name, it might not be his name, I don't know. He's a bit of an enigma himself. A bit of an enigma himself. Have a little look at his badges. Troll, president, ordained minister. I thought it reminded me of one of those cryptic crossword puzzles where the answer's nail file or something. It just reminded me of that. That is my favourite picture of this, whatever this shit is. Lovely. So, Creepy Joe, a.k.a. Genocide Joe, a.k.a. Mumblemouth, a.k.a. Sleepy Joe, a.k.a. Grandpa Joe, a.k.a. Joe the Pit, a.k.a. President, where am I? Is a great advocate for digital equity. So a handy White House fact sheet claims Biden-Harris administration announces over $40 billion to connect everyone in America to affordable, reliable, high-speed internet. According to the fact sheet, the pandemic shed light on what many Americans already knew. Access to the internet is a necessity for everyday life. Well, only because you fucking nutters I'm trying not to swear. Only because you nutters made it that way. We didn't make it so that access to the internet was a necessity for everyday life. That's only since like 1997 in my house. Politico has reported that Biden's campaign set to counterpunch on disinformation. The campaign is going to have to be more aggressive, pushing back on misinformation from a communications perspective, And filling some of those gaps companies are leaving behind, said Rob Twomask Frey. Now, he's an interesting guy, Rob Twomask Frey. He's one of those ones that's always been into politics, even when he was at school. He's probably bullied. You know, all the other kids were behind the bike sheds or, like, smoking down the road or, like, nicking their mum's fags. And he was making banners for a Liberal Party. That's a banner holding. Banner. And they go knocking on people's doors with probably had a tie on at the age of 9. Like a little baby, like a Barbie, like a Ken suit, going around knocking on your door. He's one of them. So in 2013, Rob, a junior at Ithaca College, helped elect the youngest ever mayor of Ithaca City, and 7 years later worked diligently to help get the oldest president, Creep Pewed Sleep Gen Joe, elected. What a guy. What a guy. He's worth looking out for because apparently he's going to be playing a major role in 2024 if Creepy Joe gets elected again. But apparently he is working at the White House, or was until recently, as the new director of digital strategy. So he's the one that thinks that the campaign is going to have to be more aggressive, pushing back on misinformation from a communications perspective. So, like the Hitler Youth, in a way. Adam Liptak reported for the New York Times on the 20th of October 2023. Supreme Court lifts limits for now on Biden officials' contacts with tech platforms. The Supreme Court on Friday allowed Biden administration officials to continue to contact social media platforms to combat what the officials say is misinformation, pausing a sweeping ruling from a federal appeals court that had severely limited such interactions. So basically, federal ruling stopped them from being such fascists and going around shouting at platforms. They stopped that for a little bit, but now they're reintroducing it so they can be fascists again. Justice Samuel A. Alito Jr., such cool names in America, stated, government censorship of private speech is antithetical, don't know if I've said that right, to our democratic form of government, and therefore today's decision is highly disturbing. Elizabeth Morrell, Louisiana's Solicitor General, claims they pressure the companies to censor disfavoured viewpoints, and they also force the companies to rewrite their policies to ensure that future speech disfavoured by the government will always be suppressed. US District Judge Terry Doughty said the government was acting in a similar way to an Orwellian Ministry of Truth. Now, let's look at S, which I think means section. It's just like S dot. I think it means section because it's to do with law and things. So let's call it section. Section 299, Safe Tech Act, or the Safeguarding Against Fraud, Exploitation, Threats, Extremism and Consumer Harms Act. So this is a bill to amend Section 230 of the Communications Act of 1934 to reaffirm civil rights, victims' rights and consumer protections. So a bunch of, again, lefties, I'm not left or right, but they are all from the Democrat Party, sorry, with loads of money, want to go in and amend this Communications Act of 1934, basically to make it more fascist. So it didn't receive a single vote in 2021 when they put it forward. They brought it forward again in 2023 in February, and it's currently at the first stage of the legislative process. So it's not actually a thing at the moment, but there's all these things coming into play that you'll see in a minute. Unesco, Biden's and Harris's thing. There's a load of stuff that is kind of going to help herald this bullshit through. So let's just have a little look at the people who came up with this idea to amend this bill. The bill that they're calling Safe Tech Act. The people that sponsor it, throw money at it, or co-sponsor it. So have a little look at the people. So Mark Warner, he's a businessman, a politician, the 69th governor of Virginia, and a member of the Democratic Party. Amy Klobuchar, I don't know. Politician and lawyer, senator from Minnesota, affiliated to the Democratic Party. Mace Hirono, lawyer and politician, junior senator from Hawaii, member of the Democratic Party. Timothy Kaine, lawyer and politician, junior senator from Virginia, Democratic nominee for vice president in the 2016 election as Hillary Clinton's running mate. Richard Blumenthal, lawyer and politician, senior senator from Connecticut, member of the Democratic Party, one of the wealthiest members of the Senate, with a net worth of over $100 million. There's probably more, and that might be not be 100% up to date, but it's up to date as per yesterday. I've noticed the one thing I did come away with, they all look very clean. Very clean. They don't, I don't think they've ever stroked puppies, or, there's no dog hairs, or there's no split ends, or like bits of acrylic paint, because they've got hobbies. It's very clean. Liz? Yeah? What's the FCC? That's a good question, Liz. The FCC, or the Federal Communication Commission, regulates interstate and international communications by radio, television, wire, satellite and cable. Still with me? This one's a bit researchy and a bit academic for me. I'm probably not going to do this again. Right, now we get to some juicy bits. Here is a very important statement by Commissioner Brendan Carr. I've even bookmarked this statement on my phone, and I had to literally learn how to bookmark things on my phone so I could bookmark it. It seemed very important, I think. So, Carr opposes President Biden's plan to give the administrative state effective control of all internet services and infrastructure in the US. The unlawful power grab chooses central planning over free market capitalism. I'm going to try to, in a nutshell, this one for you. It's nice of me, isn't it? Go and have a look at it yourself. So, basically, Carr says Democrats have been in charge of the FCC for 12 out of the past 16 years. In that time, there's been plenty of time to put in any telecom policy they wanted to, okay? There's been plenty of time to do all this, okay? Billions of dollars have in fact been thrown at ending the digital divide. We are the world. Dad, get off TikTok. I'm hungry. Fuck off. Oh, I'm so rubbish at not swearing. But now, all of a sudden, the Biden administration is saying, it's not really working, is it? It's not working, is it? It's still a bit shit. We've thrown all this money at it and it's been run by us, but it's still a bit shit. And it's your fault, not our fault. So Carr agrees with this statement. I don't know if that was actually Biden's statement, it's all a bit shit, but, he agrees with the proper version of it. And points to the fact that the reason it is still shit is because of Biden's administrative policies. For example, it has blocked and delayed broadband infrastructure. Components are lying in warehouses and yards due to the governmental red tape. But the government now wants to throw even more billions of dollars at its Internet for All initiative. So it's going shit, but they're like, oh, it's going shit, but I'm going to throw more money at it, but instead of looking at the real reasons that the digital infrastructure is shit, it's blaming the private sector and free market capitalism and the FCC. It said the FCC never went full command control when it came to regulating the internet, so they weren't quite fascist enough. So it's independent, the FCC. They didn't quite go fascist enough with controlling it, so that's why it's gone shit. It's not because the red tape and the fact that there's big hold-ups because of admin. It's private sector rubbish. So, are you with me? So, in my opinion, it's all shit. It's done on purpose. They red tape the shit out of it so they can now come in with, it's because of you, FCC, and it's because of the private sector. You're just not commie enough. So it's like the Hegelian dialectic, like David Icke said, problem, reaction, solution. So they made a problem by holding the infrastructure and everything up by the red tape. So it could have just gone smoothly. The private sector, he made the pipe, he stored the pipe, he'll lay the pipe. The private sector, they would have done a fine job, but at every stage it got stuck by red tape. They did that on purpose so that they could go, right, you private sectors, give me that. You rubbish. You don't know what you're talking about. Do it up bloody selves. So they've done that on purpose. So Carr says, last month, President Biden gave the FCC its marching orders. The president called on the FCC to implement a one-page section of the 2021 Infrastructure, Investment and Jobs Act by adopting new rules of breathtaking scope, all in the name of digital equity. For the first time ever, those rules would give the federal government a roving mandate to micromanage nearly every aspect of how the internet functions. From how ISPs allocate capital and where they build, to the services that consumers can purchase, from the profits that ISPs can realise and how they market and advertise services, to the discounts and promotions that consumers can receive. Talk about central planning. On November the 15th, 2023, the Commission will vote to put President Biden's plan in place. Carr goes on to say why he opposes it. Literally, the plan, I've had a look at it. It's over 200 pages long. It's full of gobbledygook, and they do that on purpose, don't they? So thank God there's people on here that break it down. Carr goes on to say why he opposes the plan, which is extensive, so I'll try to summarise it, but even the summary is a bit long, but it's very important. If you get only halfway through this and just go off and go, oh, I can't be arsed, I'm just gonna watch some, I don't know, right? That's fine. But you might not be able to do it in a couple of years. This is, like I say, I'm going to talk about what's going on in our country, in the EU. We've already had the King having a little speech about it, which I'm going to talk about later. But might be a good time to swap each other's telephone numbers and addresses. We've taken this for granted a bit too much. And they want to take it away. This is serious. Or else I wouldn't have spent literally 48 hours reading legislation. Me? Reading legislation? Can't even say it. For me to do something like that, to read and research and try and give you something in, like, political, as you know, I don't do that usually because I'm a lazy cow. But this is important because if this happens all over the world, you won't be watching this, or your favourite podcasters and because they won't be allowed the internet. It's not just that they won't be allowed on YouTube, they won't be allowed the internet. Even if you thumb something up, or if you're in, I talk about it. It's not just about that. It's about whether if you're in debt with some. I'll talk about that later. President Biden's plan hands the administrative state effective control of all internet services and infrastructure in the country. So this is Brendan Carr, Commissioner Brendan Carr. And he's in the FCC, so he knows what he's talking about. Never before in the roughly 40-year history of the public internet has the FCC, or any federal agency for that matter, claimed this degree of control over it. Indeed, President Biden's plan calls for the FCC to apply a far-reaching set of government controls that the agency has not applied to any technology in the modern era, including Title II common carriers. That's got something to do with, I looked at a little picture of, like, you've got a little cloud at the top, which is the internet, and then you've got, I don't know, look at it yourself. The closest analogue would be the heavy-handed rules the FCC applied to the Bell telephone monopoly during the height of the New Deal era. A copper wire period of time when it was hard to distinguish between government regulator and telephone provider. But do not take my word for it. The text of the order expressly provides that the FCC would be empowered for the first time to regulate each and every IPS's network infrastructure deployment, network reliability, network upgrades, network maintenance, customer premises equipment and installation, so it can decide whether or not you get a box or not. Do you understand this? It can regulate speeds, so how fast your internet is, if you're allowed it, capacities, latency, data caps, throttling, pricing, promotional rates, imposition of late fees, opportunity for equipment rental, installation time, contract renewal terms, service termination terms. That's a very important one. Service termination terms. Do you get that? So the government will be able to regulate the rules on service providers' termination policies. So if they just hate speech, probably missing, dissing, pissing information, probably, or maybe I thumbed up something that David Icke did, or I don't know. But that could be in their termination rules, and then it's not just you're off YouTube, mate. You're off the internet. Do you get this? Yeah, you're off the internet. The service provider has been taken away from you. Do you understand this? It's important. Like I said, I wouldn't be doing research if it wasn't. You know what I'm like? Lazy. But there's time not to be lazy now. What did I get to? Termination, service termination terms, and use of customer credit and account history. Customer credit and account history. Are you in debt? Have you forgot to? Was there one time when you didn't pay your water rates? Get off the internet. You mean you couldn't afford to pay your rent that month because we've put all the prices of everything up and your landlord? Get off the internet. What, you mean the only way that you can now contact the water rates is via the internet, and you ain't got the internet? Get off life, probably. They'll be able to access your account history, what money goes in, what money goes out of your bank. Exactly like the central bank digital currency, CBDC, which is going ahead. This is happening now. We were talking about this 20 years ago, and it was fun. I used to call it conspiraporn. It's fun. It's happening now. It's time to put your tinfoil hats on and join the revolution. It's happening. mandatory arbitration clauses, pricing, deposits, discounts, customer service, language options, credit checks, marketing or advertising, contract renewal. It's up to them if your contract gets renewed. Okay. Carr says the list is not exhaustive. The list is not exhaustive. I personally suggest you go and have a little listen to Dave Hodges over at the Common Sense Show. He's brilliant. I don't necessarily agree with everything that he comes out with. Honestly, you know, who cares? Don't matter, does it? Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater in these days and age. He breaks it down a lot better than me. He's got a lot bigger brain, and this isn't the first political thing he's ever dissected and researched. He knows about it, so he can put it across a lot better than me. So go and have a look at him. But I just pulled a few bits out of what he was saying to give you, because, like I say, he does it better than me. So another little nutshell: the FCC will be able to regulate every ISP service terms. Okay. They'll be able to do credit checks. So if you have debt to anyone, they could terminate your internet service. I'm in debt to loads of people. Bye. So Dave Hodges highlights things like, not only will we have our channels taken down, we could potentially have our internet taken down. So emails will be monitored for hate speech, mis and disinformation. The new internet will be controlled and there'll be no room for dissent. And basically Carr says to call this extreme or radical doesn't do it justice. And I say nutters like us who dare to question the mainstream won't exist. In a digital platformy way, anyway. So, what are we left with after all that? A little breakdown, hopefully. Unesco, the communication and information part of the United Nations, are demanding tighter controls on disinformation and hate speech, as it constitutes a major threat to stability and social cohesion, heralding in their action plan. So basically they say to countries, do this, do that, we'll give you loads of money if you do it. So it's not a coincidence that that's going on at the same time as all the rest of it. The bill to amend Section 230 of the Communications Act of 1934 is circling above us like a vulture ready to swoop down and impose Orwellian-style control over our use of the internet. It's literally that thing that was kicked out last year is just like hovering around, waiting for the right brain-dead president to bring it in and push it forward. And it's got it on it. Creepy boy Biden has been told to be outraged about piss information. I mean, he's got to be told what to think, hasn't he? You know, it's not he's outraged by it. He doesn't even know it exists, probably. He doesn't even know which way to put his pants on. And cry about countries he doesn't give a shit about and probably wants to bomb, not being able to watch Pornhub. So basically it's all digital equity. Oh, the poor people in Latin America won't be able to watch Pornhub. So, in my opinion, their end game is total control. The central bank digital currency will control you. Digital IDs will control you. Internet censorship is to control you. Driverless cars are to control you. Medications, taxation, man-made climate change, trust the science, Brian Cox, David Attenborough, Elon Musk, ancient aliens, universities, farm buyouts, Monsanto, chemtrails, fluoride, war, died of suddenly, elections, red and blue, left and right, SSRIs, robot dogs with guns. I'm going to go and listen to the music from Lord of the Rings now. I'm going to have a cup of tea in a china cup. And I'm going to switch off the fucking internet.